I'm Kevin Thomas, Senior Pastor of Forest Lake United Methodist Church. Thank you for joining us as we look at this week's lectionary readings. Today we will tackle one of the most difficult yet essential topics of the Christian faith. Our text will be Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 through 35. Then Peter came to Jesus and said, "Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times?" Jesus said to him, "No, not 7 times, but I tell you 77 times. For this reason the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. And as he could not pay, his lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the slave fell to his knees before him, saying, 'Have patience with me, I will pay you everything.' And out of pity for him, the lord of that slave released him and forgave the debt. But that same slave, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him by the throat, he said, 'Pay what you owe.' Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, 'Have patience with me, I will repay you.' But he refused. Then he went and threw him into prison until he could pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their lord what had taken place. Then his lord summoned him and said to him, 'You wicked slave, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have had mercy on your fellow slave, as I had mercy on you?' And in anger his lord handed him over to be tortured until he would pay his entire debt. So my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart." Forgiving others is one of the toughest demands of the Christian faith. It's also one of the most liberating, but it certainly isn't easy. It's far more than the polite exchange on the kindergarten playground when one child offends another. And the deeper the pain, the harder the path to forgiveness. One of my professors, Dr. Steve Siemens, suggests that forgiveness is actually a process that includes 7 steps in 3 parts, and it occurs over time. And it takes patience. It requires healing. I'd like to briefly share those steps with you. The first stage is preparing to forgive. Number 1, we face the facts. When we pretend that nothing happened, we short-circuit forgiveness. There is no need to forgive if there was no offense. Denial robs us of healing. So own up to the fact that something really happened. Number 2, feeling the hurt. Not only did something happen, but it really hurt us. It was something. It did mean something. Once we acknowledge that we've been offended, we must face the pain, recognize the depths to which we've been hurt. Part of our emotional healing is identifying our emotional pain. Number 3, confronting our hate. Of course, the Bible teaches us to love everybody, but when we've been deeply hurt, hatred for the offender is a natural reaction. We acknowledge it. We confront it. We ask for God's help. We cannot forgive someone and hate them at the same time. That moves us into the second part of forgiveness, the real heart of forgiveness. The 4th step is bearing the pain. Sin produces hurtful consequences. Someone must bear the pain. Somebody's got to pay. When I forgive someone, I choose to bear that pain. Number 5, releasing those who have wronged us. Now, this is where we get to the real meat of forgiveness. Forgiveness means that I release the other person. I don't hold them accountable anymore. Closely related to bearing the pain is releasing them from releasing those who have wronged us. I choose to suffer the guilt. I give up my demands for vengeance. Now, to be sure, releasing them does not prevent us from seeking justice. If you're the victim of a crime, you can forgive the perpetrator and still seek justice. The third phase is starting over. Number 6, assuming responsibility for ourselves. We may have played some role in the offense. We need to own that. We can't make people respond to our forgiveness. We are simply responsible for releasing them. When we assume responsibility for ourselves, we get to choose to be survivors rather than victims. And the final step, number 7, longing for reconciliation. When we have truly forgiven someone, we can begin to long for the relationship to be restored. Now, that may not be possible, but we can hope for it. The person that we are forgiving may have already died. We may not be able to forgive them for that reason. They might be a toxic person, and being around them would put us in danger. It would continue to be unsafe for us. And so while we may not be able to restore the relationship, we can at least wish for what it could have been without the offense. Forgiveness is not an easy path. It takes time, but it's worth it. We at Forest Lake are ready to take that journey with you. Let us know if you'd like to connect.